Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kakasungura YouTube channel. A big thank you to each and every one of you for your continued support. If you're watching this video, kindly beseech you, the only support you can give me is taking your 1 or 2 seconds, click that subscribe button, and remember to turn on your notification bell. Kakasungura, so many people have been asking me on the standard gauge railway and the port that was moved from Naivasha back to Mombasa. And they've been asking me, Kakasungura, what is the economic impact of reverting the port from Naivasha to Mombasa? Now, today, I will be addressing the question, the reverting of the Naivasha port back to Mombasa. Was it a political question? Was it to benefit the president politically or to get political mileage? Or was it an economic question to help Kenya advance economically? That is the question I will be responding to. And by the end of my presentation, ladies and gentlemen, you will get the answer to that question. Now, I have sampled a few points here. Some of them are in figure form. That is why I must refer for me to be very accurate on the figures, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we remember that during the campaigns, William Ruto made a declaration and a promise to the people of Mombasa that once I take power, I will revert back the Naivasha port to Mombasa. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2017, the President of the Republic of Kenya by then, Uhuru Kenyatta, in the company of his deputy by then, William Samoei Ruto, they flagged off the first ever cargo from Mombasa to ride on a standard gauge railway to Nairobi. By then, the new standard gauge railway had been built from Mombasa to Nairobi. At this point, there were already ongoing discussions on extending the port from Nairobi to Naivasha. And you remember, ladies and gentlemen, in 2019, Uhuru Kenyatta flagged off the first cargo from Nairobi that was destined to Naivasha, ladies and gentlemen. Now, people could ask, what is the truth about the reverting of... That is another question that can emerge in between my analysis. What services exactly were moved from Naivasha to Nairobi, was moved from Mombasa to Nairobi and Naivasha? What services are these? Ladies and gentlemen, the basic operations, all of them were left in Mombasa. This includes the berthing of the ships, offloading. That only can happen in Mombasa because that is where the sea meets the land. You cannot bar a ship in Nairobi or in Naivasha. Itapita wapi? So all this still remained in Naivasha. So all berthing of ships and offloading of cargo from the ships remained in Mombasa. Other services include clearing of loose cargo, still remained in Mombasa, and the motor vehicle units, hii iliwachiwa Mombasa. Now, kuna wale watu who could import cargo and still they are in coast. So when their cargo comes, is cleared and picked in Mombasa. Haikumaanisha kwamba if you are in Mombasa, when your cargo comes, you go pick it from Naivasha and back to Mombasa. No. The people of Coast and the investors in Mombasa, or the business people in Mombasa, their cargo still remain to be cleared in Mombasa, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what does this mean to the people of Kenya? And what were the services that were moved from Mombasa to Nairobi? These were the services. According to the data, it says an estimated 40% of Mombasa port volume is moved via the standard gauge railway. And you remember, when the standard gauge railway was built, to help repay the loan, Uhuru Kenyatta made an order for all traders who are moving their cargo from Mombasa to Nairobi must do it on the standard gauge railway and not by road. Now, what happens in Nairobi? Clearance happens in Nairobi for all the cargo that was destined to Nairobi were all being cleared in. So if you are a trader and you had imported a cargo, ikifika Mombasa, it is transported via standard gauge railway to Nairobi. And this is where you clear. You don't need to travel to Mombasa to go and clear your cargo. Wewe unakaa Nairobi, unaingoja, inakuja. So you clear it in Nairobi. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in Nairobi, there was SFS. What does this mean? Counter freight stations. Mtu anaweza uliza, Kakasungura hii ni nini? Counter freight stations ni kama warehouse. Warehouse means container inakuja. In that container unapata kuna mtu aliagiza viatu, kuna mtu aliagiza nguo za mitumba, kuna mtu aliagiza computers, for instance. I'm giving an example. So that container iko na 3 cargos inside. So inapoletwa na gari inaingizwa kwa CFS. Ikishaingizwa kwa hiyo cargo, kwa hiyo warehouse, now assortment is done. Viatu inatolewa kando, inapakiwa kwa container, inaandikwa jina ya mwenyewe, inawekwa kando. Nguo zinatolewa, zinawekwa container ingine, zinapakiwa, zinawekwa kando. Then computers zinatolewa, zinawekwa kwingine, zinawekwa kando. So that mtu anakuja, anapick ile yake ambayo aliagiza. That is what we call CFS. It's like a warehouse where assortment is done. Upon clearance, now the trucks can pick those cargo to their destination, to the various parts of the country. Now, what is in Naivasha? In Naivasha, the clearance of cargo destined to East African countries like Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, probably South Sudan. This only happened in Naivasha. Now, what does this mean? In Naivasha, there were no CFS farms. It's only the KPA that could do the assortment and the separation of the cargo. Now, by extending the port to Naivasha, what did it mean to Kenya? One, it was to expand business. It was to expand the Kenyan business to East African countries, so that a trader in Tanzania does not need to travel to Naivasha to go and pick his or her cargo and again travels all the way back to Tanzania. That distance was shortened. So mtu wa Tanzania can only travel to Naivasha. he picks his cargo and he goes back to Tanzania. The person in Uganda could only travel to Naivasha, pick his cargo, and goes back. The person in Rwanda could only travel to Naivasha, pick his cargo, and goes back. The person in South Sudan could pick his cargo from Naivasha and go back to Naivasha without wasting time traveling all the way to Mombasa. Now, you remember, according to data available, the port in Mombasa was built on a 1,000 acre of land, and it had the capacity to process 2 million tons of cargo in a year. What are the congestion from Mombasa? So in short, Nairobi and Naivasha were entirely made to decongest the Mombasa port to make processing fast and easier. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen to this. Nataka usikize hivi vizuri sana. With the expanded cargo capacity from recent improvements, the Mombasa port handled 34.5 million tons of cargo in 2021. That is an increase from 27.3 million in 2016, meaning Nairobi and Naivasha ilizaa matunda. Economic wise, to be precise, ilizaa matunda. That is not my own data, ladies and gentlemen. The data is available. And the SGR cargo services earned 13 billion shillings as profits in the year 2021. This is according to the economic survey released by the KNBS. So economic wise, it was an advantage. The Nairobi, the Naivasha port. Economic wise, it was an advantage to us, Kenya. What about revenue? The Kenya Revenue Authority collected a high 728 billion shillings from customs and the border control services in the financial year that ended 30th June 2022. You can imagine. According to the report, this is up from 510 billion shillings in the 2019-2022 financial year. In 2017-2018 financial year, the earnings from customs was 470 billion shillings. So unasikia, but this year we collected 728. So economic wise, you can see how the standard gauge railway had started performing. Economic wise. That is not my data. It's available. You can Google. And so, ladies and gentlemen, somebody could ask, what is the impact of reverting back the dry port from Naivasha back to Mombasa? Meaning, the Mombasa is dead and the Nairobi died. Because kama hakuna Naivasha na imerudishwa Mombasa, inamaanisha hata hii ya Nairobi tayari imekufa. How will Kenyans suffer from this? I want you to listen to me very clearly now. Ladies and gentlemen, you remember, pesa yenye ilijenga railway from Mombasa to Nairobi to Naivasha ilikopeshwa. Pesa yenye Kenya ilitumia, serikali ya Kenya ilitumia kujenga railway kutoka Mombasa to Nairobi to Naivasha ilikopeshwa. Now, who will pay this loan? Ladies and gentlemen, you remember, the railway now is not in business because all the cargo was reverted back to Mombasa, meaning the railway is deserted. Let me give you a very small example. Umeenda kwa benki, umekopesha pesa, umejenga hoteli. Hoteli imefanya wiki mbili na imeacha kufanya biashara, zimefungwa kwa hiyo hoteli. Lakini kumbuka ulijenga na loan. Nani atalipa hiyo loan? Si bado ni wewe. Inamaanisha you will be forced to do other businesses to service the loan. This is what it means to Kenya. Kenyans will toil very hard, very, very hard to repay the loan that was used to build the railway from Mombasa to Naivasha. Why? The railway itself is not bringing in the returns. Why? Because the operations were shifted back. That means the loan that was used to build the railway cannot be serviced from the business done on the railway. It will only be serviced from taxes. Meaning, Kenyans, we will toil, we will sweat to pay the Chinese loan that was used to build that port. That's the bitter truth. And you heard today news. Kenya was fined 1 point something billion for defaulting to pay their loan. That loan was used to build the standard gauge railway. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what are other implications? There is risk of port congestion in Mombasa because the discongestion had been removed and being spread across Nairobi and Naivasha. So, wakati port imerudishwa Mombasa, there will be congestion, and thus we will experience inefficiencies. And what is the impact of that? Revenue is set to decline. From that, we will experience high traffic on the road because traders will be forced to go back to use the road to transport their cargo. What does that mean? Delay in cargo transportation, ladies and gentlemen. Now, jobs have already been lost. Watu walikuwa wamenunua mashamba Naivasha and heavily invested. Kuna watu walikuwa wameajiriwa kwa hiyo port ya Naivasha. Jobs have been lost. Now, ladies and gentlemen, up to that point, I want to ask you a simple question. Was the moving of the port from Naivasha back to Mombasa an economic question or a political question? You remember, South Sudan had already started purchasing land in Naivasha where it could set its place to do clearances. Uganda, the same, had already been allocated land in Naivasha. This was to the benefit of Kenya. And this was in agreement to do business with our East African countries. But sasa, I can confidently tell Kenyans who are watching that, ladies and gentlemen, from what I've explained, you don't need rocket science to answer my question. The moving of the port from Naivasha back to Nairobi was a political question to cripple the economy of this country. What does that mean? Tougher times ahead. Kenyans, I'm not lying to you. Tighten the belts, because you will be forced to service the loan. Yet, the business that was set up has been completely deserted. Ruto alirudisha port Mombasa kujitengenezea jina la kisiasa. Sio kutengenezea Kenya uchumi. Ni kuua uchumi wa Kenya. God bless you. Mungu abariki. That is Kenya for you. Thank you for watching. Keep subscribing and keep sharing, ladies and gentlemen. Asanteni sana.